Hello, folks. Today we will be talking about the third foundation to remember, and I'm actually going to start off with this one. The mind is the forerunner. So this is what is said in the Dhammapada. So I think it's helpful to, even though in Anapanasati, these, you can see it's step, or item 9, right? We can actually start with the mind. And really we're working with the mind and the breath in tandem. But here I want to just spend some time to focus on the mind and the mental states. So in order to change, we must become aware of our mental states. Become aware, okay, are we irritated right now? Is there a hindrance in the mind, right? Are we wanting something that we don't have right now? So we become aware of that. We become aware if there's any irritants. And that what we do is we apply that right noble effort to make a change, to abandon those unwholesome states of mind and to enter and abide upon wholesome states of mind. Now, that can happen very quickly, or sometimes it takes a little bit of time, a little bit of application, and a little bit of effort. So this is where we work with the wholesome thoughts, using perhaps even wholesome phrases, one wholesome phrase after another, one wholesome thought after another. So we come back and we become just being, we generate thoughts of being satisfied with simply being aware that we're breathing. Now that's going back down to the body, but again, we're working on developing the mind. This helps to gladden it. So we become aware of the mind and we work on gladdening the mind. We play with gladdening the mind. It's a light thing. We're lightening up the mind. Now, the thing is that the mind here is also, again, it's the mental state. It's not just merely the thoughts, but it's the actual mental state, which has a little bit more of a carryover time, right? But the thoughts are changing like very rapidly, one thought after another. So what we're doing is we're just directing those thoughts towards the wholesome. And if we continue to do that with the breath, then our attitude will change, our mental state will change, and our mind will become gladdened. It will become light and illuminated. And so this is a very important item on Anapanasati. And it's something that we actually want to start out with, is to start with gladdening the mind. Now, when we do this, and we apply the mind again and again, and we sustain it on the wholesome, the mind becomes unified. We're no longer divided. We're no longer fighting each other, because things like doubt, things like ill will, these things divide the mind. But when we are satisfied here and now with what is, then the mind becomes unified. It becomes whole. It becomes organized. It becomes samadhi. So this is what samadhi is. And Dhammaratos has laid out a really wonderful explanation for this in the form of a tent. So like a teepee, where all the poles are coming together to support each other. This is samadhi. So that's the unification of mind, or collecting the mind, or gathering the mind together. It's not a hard, single-pointed concentration. However, what it is a unification of mind. And it's actually gathering these factors together. So we practice with our noble right sati to remember. We take a look with the ditti. So this is remembering to look. We make a change, and a wholesome change. And we do this over and over again. So our attitude, our mental state starts to change. That's the sammasankappa, or it's the attitude or right intention. So that's another path factor there. And again, that goes with the gladdening of the mind. And as we continue to do that, of course, if we're practicing in seclusion, for those moments, our morality should be in check, because we're not harming anyone. So we can count those in terms of path factors. And so our mind becomes unified. It becomes whole. It becomes complete in a sense. It's not fighting itself. It's a friendly mind, a harmonious mind. right? So these are all helpful pointers towards what samadhi is. It's union. The mind is in union, and at first it's coming into union with ourself, coming into friendship with ourself, and then it's also becoming in union with the world, with what is happening now, right? So we can even enter upon that aspect, and that can be very gladdening of itself, just directing the mind towards that. So then there's 12. The 12th item on here is freeing the mind. So as we continue this practice, the mind becomes free. It becomes liberated. Liberated from what? Dissatisfaction. Liberated from dukkha. Liberated from suffering. And so this is the 12th item. And so we work with these different items. Again, they kind of can flow together, and it's helpful to not look at it like as 100% always linear. It can be a spiral kind of pattern where we keep working in these skills, right? So that's focusing on the mind aspect there, right? So how we practically do this is we look at what kind of thoughts we're having, and we change them from unwholesome to wholesome, and we sustain the thoughts on the wholesome. Once the thoughts are like nice and wholesome one after another, we can let off the gas a little bit, but we still want to keep an eye on the thoughts, right? So until we're like rather advanced in terms of practicing, or we've been practicing for some time, then we can let off the gas for a little bit. But I still suggest being able to come back and play with these wholesome thoughts. And again, with that also changing the attitude. So the wholesome thoughts or the wholesome phrases are not the same thing as the attitude, but they support each other. And so that's why we want to work with these wholesome thoughts. So because we can talk ourselves into feeling quite wonderful. And that's simply, if we're in the woods, we just appreciate it. So having thoughts of appreciation, having thoughts of gratitude, having thoughts of renunciation. We don't need this thing or that thing in order to be happy right now. We have everything we need in order to be happy right now, right? And so this brings us back to what's going on here and now, and not being so caught up in the past, not being so caught up worrying about the future. And so we can do this throughout the day. Whenever we return, whenever we remember, we can come back to this. But also when we get into seclusion, it's really helpful to have that attitude that this is the time to practice this. We're setting away this time to practice this, and we can recognize this paradise here and now. We can recognize just, with the simple things in life, we can find the utmost joy. And so this is a very this is a pleasure which is, when one cultivates and develops this, it blows away worldly pleasures, and that's just how it is. So it's helpful to have this skill because it helps one to, really put away addictions as well, and to find this secure sense of joyful satisfaction and ease and a feeling of success. So we also can, work on that with, developing the mind of a champion, the mind of a winner, right? So working with that, hey, just breathing right now, this is successful enough, right? And in that, recognizing that success here and now, putting down dukkha, putting down dissatisfaction, is actually immeasurably greater if one truly follows this practice, and they truly understand it, immeasurably greater than any worldly feat. When this is truly understood, that's the way that it is. I would rather have this, I'd rather recognize this, than climb Mount Everest or achieve vast amounts of wealth. That's how good it is. I'm talking from direct experience. But you can recognize this too, and it's as simple as just practicing and remembering and coming on back and laying down that burden, freeing the mind from dissatisfaction, freeing the mind from greed. That's what it's about. So again, that's a little bit more of a focus there on the mind. And it's helpful to remember I have the fire element up here, so the mind comes under the fire element, and it's the third foundation to remember, or the third foundation of mindfulness, or the satipatthana. So again, there's 4 foundations of mindfulness, and this is one of them, and it's a good place to start. And again, we do move back down to the body, and we really want to work in tandem with all these different elements, with these different foundations to remember. But it's downright wholesome to come back to these foundations. So that's another thing that can be reassuring. So thank you for tuning in. And glad if you made it this far, and just glad in general to be alive and to be breathing. All right, and one more thing before I go. We have the Dhamma Friends Discord server, so if you feel like contacting me or anybody else there, we got a community going of people who are interested in practicing Anapanasati. Also, my sincere gratitude and thanks to Dhammarato and Bhikkhu Buddhadasa and the whole lineage going back to the Buddha for transmitting this, knowledge of the Buddha Dhamma and just how wonderful of a gift it is. Also, check out the Open Sangha Foundation if you are seeking to get involved even more. And also check out Dhammarato's YouTube channel. There's a lot of great resources there as well. So, yeah, congratulations for being interested in the Dhamma. You got this. You can keep on practicing and coming on back to the breath and enjoying. All right. Until next time, peace out.